When there is an ending, there was a beginning. Every victim has a picture to paint. Every true crime has its time and place. Please join our MJ podcast, the series Deep into the Woods, Missing Persons, Unsolved Crimes, and the Does. Welcome to our MJ podcast. This is an MJ News Spot, Part 15, Cases from the Deep Freezer That Need Attention. My name is Mark, and I will be your host for tonight's show. We are coming to you from our home office in Plattsburgh, New York. Sometimes the reality of our news cycles and trends begins to surface more into our thoughts. By all sense of the word, media coverage is 97% always bad news. In this country alone, there is never a crime-free day. Every day, there seems to be someone who goes missing, or someone who has been murdered or raped, and sometimes a John and Jane Doe is recovered. On the average, 90,000 people are missing in the United States on any given day, and then you take into account the United States has over 40,000 John and Jane Does that haven't been identified. That leads to something else. Are we to believe that we have 130,000 different suspects concerning these cases? Myself, I just can't buy into that way of thinking. I would have to say several of these cases are related, but no common thread has been linked to several of these cases. Someone just has to find that thread and start pulling on it to get the correct answers. Just a reminder, always remember jailhouse informants and many killers hold back info concerning certain cases. Let's change up a bit and see why our judges need to hand out longer sentences. There was a crime where a 16-year-old shot and killed another 16-year-old for taking an ounce bag of pot. At the time, an ounce bag of weed was $35. The shooter got 6 years where he was charged with manslaughter, and with good time, he would do 3 years. At 16 years old, he already had a lengthy criminal record. This 16-year-old shooter was bragging in prison that he committed murder and only got 6 years. Some of the old-time inmates told the 16-year-old not to brag too much or they might find him in a dumpster dead. Well, karma struck. 3 weeks after his release, he was found murdered in a dumpster. There was a case where a young sex offender who got convicted for taking a 3-year-old female from the local park. The sex offender cut the 3-year-old female from the bottom of her belly button to the top of her vagina. The victim lived, so the sex offender only received 45 years. With good time, he should be out in 22 and a half years. The sex offender would only be 46 years old when released and still young enough to reoffend. Needless to say, karma hit again. The sex offender was murdered in prison after being there for only 3 years. To top off the icing on the cake, the sex offender was killed on the victim's birthday. That's prison justice. In the early 1980s, I knew someone who worked at the Regional Diagnostic Center. This is a place where they go when they sentence you to prison, and they are given a battery of tests for at least 90 days. The testing decides what prison they're going to be sent to. Now, what is spooky about this is you're booking into RDC on an average of 600 inmates a week. The true reality of it is, if you're bringing in 600 inmates, that means 600 inmates are being released in that week. That's a little mind-boggling, upsetting, and kind of scary if you ask me. Now think about those numbers and realize those numbers are from only one state. In the 1980s, when I was doing different internships, I would later go on to learn that your state prison system isn't for rehabilitation anymore. All they are concerned with is keeping the inmates behind that wall or fence until their release date, if they have one. So since the 1980s, I knew our criminal justice system was in trouble. That could also explain the reason I became an undercover controlled agent full-time to the highest bidder around 1981. But still, nothing was really changed when it comes to a judge to hand down a sentence, and then they go easy on the ones convicted. That's why we have so many repeat offenders. When an inmate is released early, many of them go back into crime. They go out committing other crimes, and many are worse than the crimes they were locked up for to begin with. Well, I blame the judges for not giving that person the maximum sentence allowed by law. Each year that passes, it gets worse, and it seems we can't even protect our own children any longer. Since the 1970s, our children have been targets. Each year it gets worse, but the judges in a lot of the cases don't use the sentencing laws, and therefore the convicted gets a lesser sentence. So these monsters that attack our children makes a deal for a lesser charge, and so it becomes a lesser sentence. There should be no deals made when it is a crime against our children. The way our system works now, child sex offenders get a lesser sentence. Then the child sex offender will be released to offend again. The victim's family needs to get together and help write new laws for longer prison sentences. In some states, they have already changed their sentencing laws. Let's take a very short pause for the cause, and we'll be back in a moment. MJA would like to give a special shout out to Shiloh's Restaurant located at 202 Central Street, Woodsville, New Hampshire. MJA and other groups like ours have eaten there for many years. They also serve alcohol. The staff there got to know why we were up there, and they learned our drinks we would order while waiting for our food. The place is kid-friendly, the food is excellent, and the service is Class A. The prices are very fair. Once again, that's Shiloh's Restaurant in Woodsville, New Hampshire. Check it out. Welcome back to our MJA podcast. This is a MJA news spot, and this is part 15, Cases from the Deep Freezer That Need Attention. You would think the media in the area of where these cases took place would post stories about their local cases. The first three cases will be Jane Doe's all found in Indiana. Case 1. Welcome to Indiana. Unidentified white female, estimated age 18 to 22 years old. Estimated date of death 8 months prior to discovery. Skeletal remains. The victim was located on December 26, 1982 in west central Wayne County, Indiana. Found by deer hunters in a remote woods approximately 2 miles north of I-70 and approximately 15 miles west of the Indiana and Ohio line. We believe this case can be solved, and some of the answers might come from the trucker serial killers operating in the 1980s. Due to the circumstances, the victim could be one of their victims. Case 2. Unidentified white female, estimated age 20 to 35 years old. Date of death 12 to 8 months prior to discovery. Skeletal remains. Located on December 29, 1996 in South Bend, Indiana, located in St. Joseph County. The victim was located by hunters just 0.6 of a mile from U.S. Highway 31. Pasture in a overgrown with thick brush at the foot of a power pylon is where the bones were discovered. The terrain in this area is very rough and is only accessible by four-wheel drive vehicles. This area is about 3 miles south of South Bend, Indiana. Cause of death hasn't been determined, but most likely homicide, aka authorities refer to her as Madison Jane Doe. Several missing women have been ruled out as being this Jane Doe. Once again, because of the location, someone is using four-wheel drive vehicle to dump the body, but it is near the US 31. The state needs to think outside of the box to get an ID on this Jane Doe. Case 3. Unidentified black female, estimated age 25 to 45 years old. Date of discovery was October 14, 2003. She was located in Spencer, Indiana, located in Owen County. Estimated date of death 1.5 years to 3 years prior to discovery. State of remains not recognizable, near complete or complete skeleton. Cause of death unknown. The victim's skeletal remains were discovered in a wooded ravine off of Franklin Road near Spencer in the rural Owen County. The bones was found by a man who was preparing to build a home on the site. Spencer is about 40 miles southwest of Indianapolis. Personal items found with the body: a medallion with the words Coraline S. likes Steve P. Love and an American flag in the center of the front. It is unknown if Love is a separate word or if the male's name is Steve P. Love. On the back of the medallion, there is a 4-leaf clover and the words, "Good luck." The medallion is about the size of a silver dollar. If the guilty one isn't a trucker, then he is doing this to throw every possible light onto another suspect. Please look over the Jane Does above and may they rest in peace. We have to come up with a better way to ID these Jane Does. MJA feels the next 7 cases can be solved if you carry out an investigation as if the crime just happened yesterday. Case 4. Cynthia Jane Anderson, 20 years old, went missing on August 4th, 1981, from Toledo, Ohio, located in Lucas County. Anderson was last seen at her place of employment on August 4th, 1981. She vanished from the law office in Manhattan Plaza in Toledo, Ohio, where she worked as a secretary. She had arrived at work before everyone else, done her regular morning task, and disappeared before her co-workers arrived. She had been receiving suspicious calls before she disappeared. Because of that, she recently had an emergency buzzer installed at her desk at work. She disappeared without a trace. There was no sign of a struggle. Her purse and car keys were gone. Her car remained outside. The doors were locked, and foul play is suspected. Well, you could believe that foul play happened in one or more different ways. But for some reason, I want to lean that her stalker phone caller is the one that's responsible. But then again, it could have been where she worked at. Someone might have thought that she could harm them in some way. Missing persons. Case 5. Cynthia Kuhn, 13 years old, went missing on January 19, 1970, from Ann Arbor, Michigan. Cynthia Kuhn left her residence en route to school in Ann Arbor. She did not attend school at all that day and did not return home that evening. Kuhn made contact with her family twice, once on April 1st, 1970, and again on April 2nd, 1970. She did not know her whereabouts at the time of the phone calls. An extortion-type call was received by the family on May 5th of 1970. Since that time, no further contact has been made to the family. Just think about this case. Her making contact with her family sounds like some other documented cases that would point to a serial killer that keeps some of the victims for a while. This case could easily be connected with the child serial killer labeled the babysitter in Oakland County, Michigan. The babysitter is one of the most clever of getting rid of all the evidence after he abducts a child. This case needs national media attention because she could be the victim of the babysitter. Let's take a pause for the cause, and when we return, we will continue on to the next 5 cases. Be back in a moment. MJA would like to give a special shout out to the Corbin Connection comedy channel on YouTube. Mr. Corbin is a very funny man with his 3 alter egos. Once again, that's the Corbin Connection on the comedy channel on YouTube. Check it out. Thank you. Welcome back to our MJ podcast. This is a MJ News Spot, Part 15, Cases from the Deep Freezer That Need Attention. Case 6. Catherine Ann Jones, 29 years old, went missing on September 27, 1974, from Clearfield County, Pennsylvania. On September 27, 1974, Catherine Jones disappeared, allegedly, with a man to whom she reportedly said she was engaged to. She left her 4 children from a previous marriage with a friend for safekeeping while she was away. The children never heard from their mother again. The family got 2 telegrams saying it was from Jones, but a friend during questioning by police said she had sent the telegrams because Kathy had asked her to. A witness said a man with dark hair and a mustache driving a red Volkswagen pulled up to her house while Jones was visiting, and Jones put clothes from her car into his, and the two drove away. Foul play is suspected. She was reported missing on October 14, 1974. So the question is, did she leave on her own because she felt tied down because of the children? Could the man she was with have caused her any harm? Or could Jones have been abducted? Case 7. Wendy Eaton, 15 years old, went missing on May 17, 1975 from Media, Pennsylvania, located in Delaware County. Eaton was last seen on May 17, 1975. Eaton stayed home on Moccasin Lane to sunbathe on the roof outside her bedroom window while her parents and brother went to play golf at the country club. When the family returned home around 1900, they found Wendy's bathing suit on her bed. Several neighbors last saw her walking to the intersection of Indian Lane and Media Station Road, 3 blocks from her home in the Indian Trails development. Bloodhounds tracked her movement to the intersection of Indian Lane and Media Station Road, where she was last seen, but no further trace of her was ever found. Wendy's disappearance coincided with several other girls whose remains were found in Tinicum Marsh area, but evidence has never been found that would link Wendy to these victims. MJ is looking into other slayings to see if there was some type of connection. Because of the age and the circumstances, I would think this case would be related to some of the other cases. Just maybe the killer has another burial ground. Case 8. Margaret Sherman, 27 years old, went missing on August 2nd, 1995 from Indianapolis, Indiana. In August of 1995, Peggy Sherman lived with a friend on the 4500 block of Gray Street on the city's east side. The night before she went missing, Peggy talked on a friend with 2 people, her mother and another man. Peggy kept $50,000 hidden in her freezer, but when police came to Peggy's house to investigate, the money was gone. Police found blood on a mattress and that had sections cut out of it. DNA tests revealed that it was 99.9% chance that it was Peggy's blood. Detectives found Peggy's blood on all 4 walls, a bedpost, a lamp, and the ceiling. Her parents filed a missing persons report. Her vehicle, a 1990 white Chevrolet Lumina 4-door, was recovered in Greenwood, Indiana, the first week in August of 1995. Cadaver dogs made a hit on the trunk of a disabled car parked in Peggy's garage. Miss Sherman's live-in boyfriend, or friend depending on who you talk to, Kenny Slate, is the prime suspect. Miss Sherman's blood was found in several areas of her home. It's hard to understand why this man hasn't been arrested. Case 9. Lynn Catherine Schultz, 18 years old, went missing on December 10, 1971 from Middlebury, Vermont, located in Addison County. Schultz was last seen at Middlebury College in Middlebury, Vermont on December 10, 1971. She was headed across campus to take an exam when friends said she turned around and went back to retrieve a pencil from her dorm room. She didn't show up for the exam. Later, her friends went back to her room. All her clothes was there, but she was gone. Her wallet was still in the room. Other than a report that she allegedly was spotted walking down US 7 south of Middlebury later that day, she was never seen again. 12:30 p.m., Lynn is seen by a fellow student outside a building that houses the bus station and a local health food store called All Good Things on Court Street in Middlebury. She is eating dried prunes that she purchased from All Good Things, last wearing blue jeans, a brown ski parka, and a maroon pullover sweater. She hasn't been found. In July 2012, police received an anonymous tip that Robert Durst owned a health food store in Middlebury around the time of Lynn's disappearance. In 2015, Durst was arrested on first-degree murder charge of Susan Berman, his longtime friend, who was killed in 2000. In 2003, he was acquitted in the 2001 dismemberment death of his neighbor while living in Texas. Durst has long been suspected in the 1982 disappearance of his first wife, Kathy Durst. While Durst is not a suspect in Lynn's disappearance, police are investigating a possible link. At this time, I do believe they have a leading suspect in the case. Case 10. And Audrey Grote, missing, 41 years old, went missing on August 21st, 1993 from Northfield, Vermont, located in Washington County. Grote was last seen alive near Wrightsville Reservoir in Middlesex on August 21st, 1993. The area has been searched on several occasions. She resided in Northfield, Vermont at the time she disappeared in 1993. Grote's pickup truck was found with keys locked inside at Montpelier Park and Ride on August 21st, 1993. Her disappearance was extremely suspicious. She is presumed deceased. Grote left 6 daughters behind. 4 of them was under 18 and still lived at home. Several searches have been conducted over the years for Grote's remains, but no evidence has been located. In the years we have spent on the case, most of us was thinking, could it have been someone she knew? Yes, one can make an argument that a serial killer is involved with the case. The years are in the limits when there was at least 2 serial killers that were active in their area and beyond. I have a quote for our listeners. It doesn't matter how slowly you go as long as you don't stop. Confucius. I want to say thank to our listeners. Please leave your comments down below. Feel free to share the podcast on any given case we might cover. Please catch our MJ podcast on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Unsolved Mysteries, Porchlight International, Mystery Machines, and of course our MJA website. That's the end of our MJA News Spot, Part 15. Cases from the deep freezer that need attention. Always remember, folks, that if you ever get bored with nothing to do, well, take a walk deep in the woods. You might be surprised of what you might find. My name is Mark, and I would like to say to you all, good night from Plattsburgh, New York.